Hey folks, Tactile here with another Tactile Lo-Fi long format video. I'm going to do a full guided build on some functional doors and just basic structure on making some walls and ceilings around your base. I am in adventure mode for this video, so anything you see here you'll be able to build in your own adventure save that you already have going. I have a bunch of supplies already set up over here. I have button and delay repeaters, leveling blocks, soil, hydrazine for my jetpack, some sensor arches, as well as narrow, wide inhibitor mods, everything that I might need here to mess around with the soil, and my active storage. For this video, I will be pretending that storage area over there is kind of like the base, and we're going to be putting a door right up along the front here. We'll make a wall and a door here together. Also, right away you might be saying, hey Tactile, I thought I had to build next to a gate for this to work. Well, this is one of those funny saves where the gates are hanging up in the air, so we're actually directly underneath the North Pole here, the North Pole gate. First thing I'm going to do here is make a ramp so that we can more easily drive and walk up into our base here. Just something that will join the true flat to the natural terrain. So I popped the block once there to square off the edge, and then I moved it down, pop the block again to make a perfect 45-degree angle. Now I'm just going to spread that out. Right now I'm using the boost mod, the narrow mod, and the blue terrain analyzer to make the blue soil. As you flatten it, will remove quite a bit of the soil above where your slope is automatically. If you're left with any extra bits, just come back and trim those off afterwards. You don't want to lose your angle, so just keep flattening out and make your whole shape, your whole ramp in this case, all at once. Everything you see me do here took me about 35 minutes in real time, and I'm just going to speed it up here whenever I'm spreading out one of the same angles. Now I'm going to repair the base floor, and to make sure that I have a good true flat surface, I'm just going to dig out a little divot and then put the leveling block in and get a fresh true flat surface to flatten from. And I'm using the same mods on my tool here with the boost mod, narrow mod, and the blue terrain analyzer. We won't worry about touching up the paint until we're all done with the build. Now I'm just going to trim up this extra soil. Alright, and now I've got a nice clean looking ramp. Oh, one more little mistake here. There we go. Here's what I have on my pack right now. Again, this is way more supplies than we're going to need. The only thing I'm going to end up refilling on here really is soil and leveling blocks. First thing that we're going to do is dig a pit for the doors to go into. If your save already has a wall on it and you want to add a door in, just dig your wall out where you want the door to be, flatten your floor out, and get yourself to a similar point where we're at here right now. Now for this hole, we're looking to dig this 3 voxels deep. So in this case, that's going to be the blue soil, and right where it turns green is where we want the floor to be. And you can count how deep it is. You can sort of see the squares on the walls, and if you count the horizontal lines, the blue stops at 3, and we want to pop our leveling block down there and get it lined up with the green. I turned off my terrain analyzer and my narrow mod when I made this hole. If you don't turn off your terrain analyzer when you're digging away, you won't be able to get any other colored dirt dug away. So now I'm going to spread out this surface underneath the floor. This will be the surface that the platforms holding the large active storage sit on. Don't worry about holes in your top floor, we'll fix those up afterwards. It never hurts to dig away some of these extra bits down here just to make sure that nothing messes with the orientation of your platforms. This next thing I make here is going to be a temporary piece of soil just for aligning the active storage to make sure they're in the right spot for the door. For the door, we're actually going to work from the middle out and just make sure that the middle is centered, and that way we'll be able to get a good frame around the door. We're going to do some 1 pixel thick for this, so all you need to do is make sure you have the narrow mod on and start spreading out from a true flat surface. Now, in previous videos I've talked about how adventure mode doesn't always want to cooperate with you on true flat, and this is one of those cases. If you have any extra soil sticking out from your 1 pixel thick, all you can really do is dig it away and try and spread the 1 pixel thick again, which is what I'm doing here. What finally ended up working for me was making the 1 pixel a couple voxels wider and spreading it out a little bit further and then digging away the extra bits. And there we go, that's what I was looking for. Just a nice square edge at the end. That's going to be what we line up the middle of our doors with. I'm going to grab one of these platforms that I have set up and then toggle the active storage. Having the active storage stick up like that is what I'm going to end up using to line the storage up with the wall. I'm going to rotate the platform a little bit left and right until it's lined up perfectly with the 1 pixel soil that we set up, and then I'm going to line up the edge of the pixel soil on the right about halfway onto the gray border that's on the active storage there. You'll see what I mean here. The soil on the front of the hole is messing with my placement a little bit, so I'm just going to dig that away. Looks like I'm lined up with the soil now. And I'm just going to line up that soil halfway onto that right hand gray edge on the active platform. Perfect. Let's go grab our other active storage. I'm going to spread this 1 pixel over. We don't have to be nearly as picky this time because we're just going to use it for rotation purposes. Just like last time, I'm going to rotate the platform a little bit left and right until it lines up as close as I can get it to that soil. That looks good for rotation, so now I'm going to overlap the 2 gray edges of the active storages to line those up. That's just about as lined up as you can get, so now we're free to dig away the temporary soil. Before we bury them, we need to make sure they're all wired up and operating. So I'm just going to grab a button repeater here, and we're going to wire that into the back of both of the active storages. To toggle the active storage, there is one special slot on the backhand side. You can usually only see it if they're currently upright. I'm going to repair some of the soil just around the edges here where I want to set the sensor arches, just so they'll be able to sit properly when I place them over here. For your arches at this point, just worry about getting them roughly in place and getting your wiring in. Once the wiring is in, you can come back afterwards when the soil is completed and worry about final placement. We can handle rotation on the sensor arch right now though by lining up the bottom of its field with the edge of the true flat hole that we have dug in front of us. Also, there's this really funky glitch right now where if you're lined up properly, it's going to start spinning around like that, so that's a dead giveaway too. For placement, I'm just trying to get this as close to the front edge as possible without it tipping forward when I set it down. Now I'm going to run a wire down to that button repeater to activate the doors. One way I like to hide my wires is by pinning it up once at the top, and then I'll go underneath, pin it underneath, and then I'll try to hide the wire inside the leg of the arch. On a side note, you're always going to get a better wire connection if you pin your wire to the side of a repeater rather than on top of it. Now I'm just going to fine-tune the placement of this segment to make sure the wire's hidden inside the leg of the arch. We'll patch up this floor back here a little bit for the next arch to be sat down, but we'll still leave an opening to make sure we can get down and get our wires done. I'm just using the bug to make sure that the rotation on the sensor arch is right. And I'm going to run the wire from this one and hide it the same way as I did on the other one. Now that all the wiring underneath is complete, I will just cover it up with some thin soil using the narrow mod, and then we'll be ready to test it. Looks like a set of working doors to me. So now I'm going to get the walls in place on both sides of the door. I'm going to do each side a little bit of a different way just to show you there's different ways to go at it. This first one here, I'm going to make some 1 voxel thick soil and use that to get a square end on it and push that over to the edge of the door. The reason I'm only pushing 1 voxel thick over towards the door is because when you work with true flat in 1 voxel thickness, it will snap itself into place as you push other surfaces around it. So this will actually have a perfectly flat end on it that we can spread out and use for our whole 2 voxel thick wall. And I'm going to go ahead and spread that out now. And then all I have to do is come in from the other side and fill that in. And that's going to be the thickness of our wall that we build up over on this side. So this is kind of one method of moving and pushing your true flat surfaces around without involving the leveling block. Do one side, come back, fill in the other. The narrow mod can be a bit slow though, so you might want to turn that off if you're doing a really big surface. Spread it out with your normal size tool. And actually, before I get too far here, let me pop a fresh surface with the leveling block. Even though it's faster going without the narrow mod on, one issue that we'll run into here is that our walls are 2 voxels thick, and that size terrain tool will actually push soil deeper than that. So we are going to have to come around to the back side here, turn our narrow mod back on, and smooth out the wall. You can see me here grabbing my true flat from right next to a 45-degree angle instead of popping the leveling block. As long as you have the narrow mod on and you can get nice and close to that 45-degree angle, you can go ahead and do that as a bit of a shortcut. For the other side of the doorway, we're going to use another method. This one ends up being a little bit quicker, and we're just going to go ahead and pop that leveling block. That's the end of that one. So this one doesn't want to pop, and that's just because our door is kind of in the way, so we're going to pop that one down as well. And then we're going to go ahead and start popping the leveling block. You can see some extra soil pieces coming off of here. That's because of that 1 pixel that we had built over here before, even though we dug it away. If you're worried about this taking too many leveling blocks or too much soil, you probably don't have yourself a soil rover, and you should. If you're going to build a big soil project, throw a big drill on a large rover, get some soil storage on there, and just go suck up some dirt. That's definitely your quickest way to do that. Alright, and I'm just going to trim off the little bits here, and like I have most of the time here, I still have the narrow mod turned on. And I'm just going to spread out the surface and build the wall like I did with the other one. This narrow mod's actually going a little bit slow, so I'm going to pop a fresh surface and spread out with the narrow mod turned off. Narrow mod back on, and we'll smooth out this side of the wall. I'm going to add the top of the door here and now, and I'll just do that really quick by stringing the leveling block across. And those doors are in the way again. And this is a good time to remind you to keep your sensor arches locked down. You don't want to grab one of those by accident and pull your wire out. Gonna make sure my narrow mod is turned on, and then I'm gonna fix up the base of this wall here. And I'm gonna do that again by grabbing right next to the 45-degree angle, spreading that out first on the wall, then grab it on the floor, do the same thing. Oh, one little fix up here, and bam, we're good to go. Same thing over here. I'm gonna hop up on top of the wall, pop the leveling block, and flatten out the top here. Now I'm just going to clean off the edges and flatten up to the top of the wall. Alright, so now with our wall complete, I'm just going to give this a little test run and see how it looks. Looks good to me. Now, one more thing I usually like to add to my doors is just a little short wall, and it keeps people from walking in between the wall and the sensor arch. And I'm forming these just the same way I did with our big walls, just popping out the leveling block to get some flat surfaces and then spreading it out from there. Sensor arches are the same as any other platform in that you can move soil all around them and it won't bother them. It's only if you manipulate the soil directly underneath the center of the platform that it will actually buck off and lose its grip on the terrain. When you have a raggedy end on a piece of soil like this, usually your best bet is the leveling block. Right now the arch is in the way. So we're going to go ahead and go over to the other side, and this time we're just going to pop the block for the whole thing. Now I'm just making sure that it's symmetrical on both sides of the door. Yep. The arch is in the way for this side too, so we're going to go ahead and pick that up out of the way. And I am trying to be careful here just to make sure I don't stretch that wire too far. That looks even to me, so I'm going to grab the arch here and I'm going to set that back into place, somewhat into the soil, and then I'll just look at the bits that are sticking out of the soil to try and get it centered. I just actually made a mistake with the auto select and accidentally grabbed the segment wire from this arch down under the ground, so I'm going to go ahead and just dig that open and repair that really quickly. We gotta open that up anyway to get this wire into the right spot. It's doing the glitchy thing, so we know the rotation is good. So there we go, that's exactly centered. If a person wanted to, they could build the terrain up and completely cover in that archway so that you couldn't see it at all. It's up to you what you want to do with your base. I'm just going to dig away a little bit here just so I can move that wire back further and hide it inside the leg like I did with the other arch. Just have to turn off my terrain analyzer so I can dig away at the green soil too. Got it that time. Here I'm just checking out the edges on everything and checking out the door, so I'm just speeding this up. Another idea for customization is you can hook anything else you want up to that button repeater as well. You could put in some horns, maybe a little jingle, dynamite if you don't want the door anymore. I'm gonna head over here and get set up to fix up all the paint. And I'll do that by taking off the narrow and the boost mod. I'll put on the wide mod and the inhibitor mod. So now I'm going to add soil, and with this combination of mods, it will just turn everything blue for me and not change the shape. Pretty good looking set of doors, if I do say so myself. That's pretty much it for putting the doors together. From here on out, I'm just going to give a little bit more examples of how I would add walls onto this, how you just go about doing the ceiling, and mostly that's going to be using the leveling block like what we've done so far. Whoops, forgot the inhibitor mod. So here I'll just show you the wide mod and how quickly you can spread soil out with this, but this is mostly going to be confined to floors and walls that are built into the soil just because they're so thick. Then to make your touch-ups, just work your way down, turn off the wide mod, do some repairs. Once you've gotten as close as you can with that, go grab the narrow mod and touch up the corners. This is a good reminder too that if you do make a big mistake on the soil and you have to rebuild, don't worry about it. It's all fixable. It can all be redone. So now if I was to add a ceiling onto this base, I would just put the leveling block up here, pop that out, use as much leveling block as I want, and then spread out from there. Looks like I accidentally toggled one of the active storages there while I was popping that leveling block. And there we go, that's how you build a set of functioning doors in adventure mode. As always, even if you folks don't want to build exactly what I have here, I hope this gives you an idea of what's possible in adventure mode, how to shape the soil in here and mess around with it. And I hope it inspires you to build something cool and share it on the socials so I get to see it too. As always, send me any questions that you have and we'll see you in the next video.